She was 23 years old, athletic, vibrant, and celebrating a new chapter of life aboard a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. On the morning of March 24, 1998, somewhere in the quiet stretch of sea approaching Curaçao, Amy Lynn Bradley vanished from her family's cabin balcony in a window of less than 30 minutes. No splash, no scream, no trace. The crew insisted it was an accident. The evidence whispered something darker. Witness sightings placed Amy walking the ship after dawn. The balcony held no signs of a fall. Her shoes remained inside. And a bassist from the ship's band was seen paying close, persistent attention to her the night before. A search by the Netherlands Antilles Coast Guard found nothing. Not a body, not a piece of clothing. Over the years, witnesses across the Caribbean reported seeing a young woman with Amy's exact tattoos, alive. 27 years later, the world is still asking the same question. How does a woman disappear from a crowded cruise ship before sunrise, without a sound, without a goodbye, and without a single soul seeing where she went? This is where her story begins. The first light of morning had not yet touched the horizon. The ocean lay still, so still it seemed to be waiting. The Rhapsody of the seas sliced quietly across the Caribbean darkness, its passengers asleep, its decks silent, its heartbeat low and steady like a giant animal resting before dawn. Inside cabin A529, a family, unaware of what the next hour would cost them, slept beneath soft white sheets, lulled by the rhythm of the waves. This cruise was supposed to be a celebration, a simple, joyful escape, a moment paused in time. For the Bradley family, it was the trip they had promised their daughter, 23-year-old Amy Lynn Bradley, after she graduated from Longwood University. She was stepping into adulthood, bright, athletic, hopeful. She loved basketball, loved her dog, loved music, loved life. Her friends described her as the one who lifted everyone else up, the one who never walked into a room quietly, the one you trusted instantly. But nothing could prepare them for the morning of March 24, 1998. The night had been alive with color and music. Amy and her younger brother Brad visited the ship's disco, the Viking Lounge, where passengers danced beneath neon lights that shimmered across dark windows facing the sea. Video footage would later show her smiling, laughing, moving with a rhythm that seemed effortless. She wore a yellow tank top, black pants. A young woman comfortable, confident, carefree. She danced with members of the ship's band, Blue Orchid, including one man in particular, Alistair Yellow Douglas, tall, dreadlocked, often seen giving Amy his attention throughout the night. Witnesses would later say he leaned close to her as if trying to keep her separated from the crowd. Others said he watched her even when she wasn't looking. But to Amy it was just music, just fun, just a night on vacation. Around 3:30 a.m. Brad, exhausted and a little drunk, decided to head back to the cabin. Amy followed roughly half an hour later. She was not stumbling. She was not incoherent. She was simply tired and ready for quiet. Inside cabin A529, she slipped her shoes off, set down her belongings, and told her brother she wanted to sit on the balcony for some fresh air. It was the last conversation Brad would ever have with her. At 5:30 a.m. Ron Bradley, Amy's father, stirred from light sleep. Something made him glance toward the balcony. Through the glass door he saw her. Amy was stretched out on a lounge chair, long legs extended, the soft breeze pulling gently at her hair. On the small table beside her sat a pack of cigarettes and a lighter, untouched. She looked peaceful, maybe drifting off under the early gray light of a Caribbean dawn. Nothing felt wrong. Nothing hinted at danger. So Ron went back to sleep. When he woke again, around 6 a.m., the balcony was empty. The cigarettes and lighter were still there. Amy's shoes were still inside the cabin. The chair was undisturbed. And Amy was gone. At first Ron didn't panic. The ship was large and Amy was independent. Maybe she'd gone downstairs for coffee or a quiet walk. Maybe she wanted time alone. He searched deck 5. Then the crowded morning coffee area. Then the photo gallery where early risers browsed pictures. Nothing. The silence around him began to feel unnatural. By 6:30 a.m., fear had settled into his chest like ice. He rushed back to the cabin and woke Iva and Brad. And then the frantic search began. The family checked every floor, every open deck, every railing. They asked passengers. They asked crew. They knocked on doors, called out her name, scanned crowds. She was nowhere. They approached the crew around 7 a.m., urging them to seal the ship, to prevent anyone from leaving until Amy was found. But the request came too late, and the ship had its own rules. When the Rhapsody of the Seas docked in Willemstad, Curaçao, at 8 a.m., passengers were allowed to disembark as if it were a normal day. No lockdown. No formal announcement. No tightening of security. Hundreds of people walked off that ship with luggage, bags, backpacks. Each one a potential witness, a potential lead, or in darker speculation, part of the vanishing path Amy was taken down. By the time the crew initiated a full internal search, it was too late. Rooms had been cleaned. Decks wiped down. Evidence swept away under routine. Some early witnesses came forward. A woman claimed to have seen Amy walking with a crew member around dawn. Another said she saw Amy in an elevator with the bassist, Yellow, looking uncomfortable. A third remembered hearing a crewman mutter in Spanish, "The girl is gone." But none of it came in time. The ship had moved on. And Amy had not moved with it. By late morning, the Netherlands Antilles Coast Guard launched a full search. Helicopters skimmed the waves. Boats crisscrossed miles of open sea. Divers scanned under the hull. They found nothing. Not a piece of clothing. Not a hair. Not a footprint on the shore. Royal Caribbean suggested she may have fallen overboard. But Amy feared deep water since childhood. She never swam in open ocean. She never leaned over rails. She never went barefoot outside at night. Her shoes were still in the cabin. Everything pointed away from an accident, and toward something calculated. By the time the ship left Curaçao without Amy, the Bradley family remained standing on the dock, holding each other, watching the massive ship pull away. They had arrived as four. They were leaving as three. And no one, not the captain, not the company, not the investigators, could tell them what happened between 5:30 and 6 a.m. in that small, silent void of time. The sea kept its secrets that morning. And the world of the Bradley family would never be whole again. Thank you for listening to this chapter with such attention and heart. If you're here, it means you care about stories that matter, stories that deserve to be heard, remembered, and honored. Please help this new channel grow by liking, subscribing, and sharing. Your support isn't just a button press, it's a gift. A way of saying, these stories deserve light. Thank you for walking this path with us. Amy Lynn Bradley grew up in Petersburg, Virginia, in a home where routines and love wove the fabric of daily life. Her father, Ron, worked in insurance, steady and careful. Her mother, Iva, taught with patience and warmth. Her younger brother, Brad, 2 years her junior, was both companion and confidant. From childhood, Amy was remarkable, not just for her athleticism but for the energy she carried, the laughter she scattered wherever she went. She excelled in basketball, earning college scholarships, coaching younger players, and dreaming of a future in athletic training. Friends described her as responsible, compassionate, the one who instinctively watched out for others. Reckless behavior was foreign to her. When she graduated from Longwood University in 1998, the Bradleys decided to celebrate with a cruise, a post-graduation treat aboard the Rhapsody of the Seas, departing San Juan, Puerto Rico on March 21st. The ship was a floating city, home to 2,000 passengers and 800 crew from dozens of nations. It promised luxury, pools glinting under the Caribbean sun, nightly performances in bright theaters, ports of call in Aruba, Curaçao, and St. Martin. For the family, it was pure joy, an escape from deadlines, responsibilities, and the ordinary rhythms of life. Photographs from the first days show Amy smiling wide, hair tousled by the ocean breeze, eyes shining with delight. She embraced every moment, exploring the ship, posing for pictures, dancing late into the night, savoring freedom. Yet beneath the glamour, cruise ships carried shadows. Crew members labored long hours in cramped quarters below deck, bound by contracts that limited their freedom. Passengers, no matter how careful, were isolated in this transient world of hallways, service elevators, and locked-off areas. Reports from the era hint at vulnerability. Disappearances sometimes swept under the rug, incidents minimized to protect reputations. Jurisdiction fractured across flags and ports. When something went wrong, no single authority had clear control. Passengers assumed safety, not realizing that luxury often masked risk. For Amy, nothing seemed amiss. She drank socially, but she was careful. She had no history of recklessness, no secret fears beyond the deep waters of the open sea she had avoided since childhood. Yet the night of March 23rd revealed a subtle shift in the currents of her fate. Alistair "Yellow" Douglas, the charismatic bassist of Blue Orchid, had singled her out in ways that observers would later describe as persistent, almost predatory. Video footage shows him leaning toward her, buying her drinks, speaking in hushed tones. Fellow band members claimed he boasted about opportunities with female passengers. Small moments, seemingly trivial at the time, now cast long shadows over a night that would end with silence. The Bradleys, however, noticed nothing unusual. They were a family on vacation, trusting the world around them. Ron and Iva went to bed early most nights, giving the children freedom within the safe corridors of the ship. Amy had a sense of independence, a joy in exploration, but nothing reckless. The potential dangers below deck, the restricted stairwells, service elevators, empty crew corridors, remained invisible. The family's trust, their belief in routine and normalcy, would soon collide with the unknown. Across the Caribbean, the seas shimmered under moonlight, indifferent to human concerns. Curaçao's port awaited them, a bright, lively town of color and movement, but to Amy, it was simply another stop in a week meant for joy. Yet the world held darker patterns. Human trafficking networks were active, preying on travelers in transient spaces, hotels, beaches, resorts, and yes, cruise ships. Crew with access to passengers could facilitate disappearances, and the isolated, international nature of cruise travel made oversight difficult. At the time, these shadows were invisible to ordinary families, even those like the Bradleys, whose hearts and minds were full of love, celebration, and hope. Amy's final hours were shaped not only by the actions of others but by a convergence of chance, opportunity, and gaps in protection. The ship was enormous. Crowds and corridors allowed movement without notice. The night air carried laughter, music, and the faint scent of salt from the Caribbean. In this environment, small choices could ripple into irreversible consequences. Amy, stepping onto her balcony for air, moving between decks, interacting with crew and performers, each action, ordinary in isolation, became part of a timeline that would later puzzle investigators and haunt her family. The cruise industry of the late 1990s had vulnerabilities that few recognized. Passengers' safety depended on vigilance from crew, compliance with procedures, and strict communication across international lines. Yet warnings were inconsistent. The Rhapsody of the Seas, like other ships, maintained procedures for emergencies, but missing person protocols were not universally enforced. A delay of minutes could mean the difference between rescue and disappearance. In Amy's case, those minutes stretched into hours before anyone fully grasped what had occurred. Even now, decades later, the subtle threads are visible. The charismatic band member hovering nearby, the quiet isolation of a balcony at dawn, the absence of witnesses in critical moments. These details create the outline of tragedy. They hint at a system where opportunity and negligence intersected, producing an outcome no family should ever endure. Amy herself had no reason to fear routine. She followed the rules, trusted the crew, and lived openly in the world. And yet, on that morning, the ordinary became extraordinary in the most horrifying way. By dawn on March 24, 1998, Amy's absence was no longer a temporary concern. The first searches yielded nothing and crew procedures proved insufficient. Passengers disembarked, unaware of the missing young woman, carrying away potential clues in their luggage and memories. The Bradley family stood on the dock in Curaçao, watching their daughter vanish from their lives in a way no one could explain. Hope and fear collided, and the first wave of questions began. Accident or something far darker? The answers were not yet visible. For decades, the memory of that morning would haunt them. Every photograph, every dance, every casual smile captured on the cruise, evidence of a life interrupted, would remind the family and the world of the fragility of security in places that seem safe. The Bradley story represents countless others. Ordinary people trusting extraordinary machines, assuming good intentions, only to encounter the unknowable. Amy's disappearance became a case study in vulnerability, in the consequences of small oversights, and in the devastating human cost when systems fail. As we look back on these hours, the truth becomes painfully clear. Nothing about that final night was ordinary. A young woman, full of life, vanished from a space filled with people, music, and laughter. The Caribbean Sea held its silence. The ship moved on. And the world began asking the same question it still asks today: how could this happen? Thank you for following Amy's story this far, for holding space with care, for allowing yourself to imagine her last hours and feel the weight of her family's loss. Supporting this channel through likes, subscriptions, and shares allows these stories to reach others who will listen, remember, and honor those lost. Your attention and care are part of the search for truth, part of the way these voices continue to be heard. The hours after Amy's disappearance revealed more than just absence. They exposed a web of human error, procedural gaps, and a system ill-prepared for tragedy. The first pieces of the puzzle were small, almost imperceptible, yet together they formed a pattern that investigators and the Bradley family would spend decades trying to decipher. Ron Bradley had seen her last at 5:30 a.m., stretched out on the balcony at peace, a cigarette and lighter at her side. By 6 a.m. she was gone. No one heard a splash, no one saw a fall. The lounge chair remained undisturbed. Her shoes were still in the cabin. Nothing suggested an accidental plunge. Yet official response leaned toward that theory. Royal Caribbean maintained that perhaps Amy, fatigued or under the influence, had climbed the railing and fallen. It was plausible only on paper. To her family it was impossible. Amy feared deep water. She had never swum alone in the dark. She would never have risked it. Early witness accounts complicated the narrative. A passenger, Lori Thompson, later reported seeing Amy near 5:45 a.m., walking toward a crew elevator with Alistair Yellow Douglas. Another passenger placed her in the casino, calm but distracted, after dawn. And yet another claimed an elevator camera had caught her descending to lower decks, but the footage was quickly erased. These small glimpses of movement hinted at a different possibility. She hadn't fallen. She had been moved. Crew response that morning revealed systemic flaws. The missing person report reached the purser's office around 7:45 a.m., but no immediate lockdown was enacted. Passengers continued to disembark when the ship docked in Curaçao at 8 a.m., carrying away potential witnesses or inadvertent evidence. Rooms were cleaned. Decks were wiped. Surveillance, sparse in critical areas, offered no record of her movements. The delay was not malicious, but it was decisive. In minutes, opportunity had evaporated. The Netherlands Antilles Coast Guard launched a search. Helicopters skimmed the sea, divers probed beneath the hull, and patrol boats swept the coastline. Yet the ocean, which seemed so calm hours earlier, gave nothing back. No body, no debris, no sign of a struggle. Currents and tides offered hope at first. Maybe she had drifted. But days passed, then weeks, without a trace. When the FBI boarded, jurisdictional complications slowed their work. International waters, a Bahamian-flagged vessel, Dutch territorial ports, all created gaps that frustrated even seasoned investigators. Crew members, scattered across the globe after the ship returned to its normal itinerary, were hard to locate. Witnesses were inconsistent, hesitant, or afraid. Alistair Douglas underwent a polygraph, inconclusive at best. His statements shifted over time. He claimed to have seen her briefly after leaving the cabin but couldn't account for her disappearance. Inconsistencies multiplied under scrutiny. Sightings outside the ship added urgency and confusion. In August 1998, Canadian tourist David Carmichael reported seeing a young woman on a Curaçao beach, covered in tattoos matching Amy's, flanked by two men looking frightened. In January 1999, Navy sailor Frank Hefner described encountering a woman known only as Jazz in a local brothel, showing him family photographs and silently begging for help. In 2005, a tourist in Barbados, Judy Maurer, noticed a young woman in a restroom whose tattoos matched Amy's, guarded by men and pleading for secrecy. Each sighting carried weight, yet each also risked being dismissed as mistaken identity or hoax. Forensic analysis eventually provided more clarity. Photos of Jazz were cross-referenced with Amy's known tattoos: the Tasmanian devil spinning a basketball, the sun on her lower back, the gecko on her navel, the Chinese character on her ankle. Experts confirmed a match. IP tracking of adult websites showed Caribbean connections. The evidence was circumstantial yet compelling. What began as a presumed accident now carried the chilling implication of abduction. Attempts to pursue accountability ran into systemic hurdles. Royal Caribbean, concerned about reputation, resisted prolonged scrutiny. They filed lawsuits against the family for defamation. The Bradleys responded with countersuits. Crews scattered across multiple countries. Jurisdictional disputes slowed investigations. Media attention helped, but only partially. Coverage was episodic, driven by new sightings, leads, or anniversaries. Even small, seemingly minor details haunted the case. A bar server statement in 2025, decades later, confirmed what many had suspected. A crew member whispered that a señorita had been taken early that morning. Surveillance gaps, cleaned balconies, and departing passengers had all contributed to the erosion of evidence. Every lost minute, every overlooked procedure, every erased tape deepened the mystery and intensified the grief. The family never accepted the theory of accidental overboard. Amy's personal habits, her fear of deep water, her careful nature, all argued against it. Her shoes remained inside. Witness accounts suggested distress and movement through restricted areas. Small but crucial clues pointed toward human intervention. And yet, decades passed without a definitive resolution. By analyzing the timeline, the patterns, the gaps, a brutal truth emerged. This disappearance was not merely a random tragedy. It was a collision of opportunity, negligence, and predation. The ship itself, its crew, its systems had failed her. And in that failure, a family lost a daughter, a brother lost a sister, and the world lost a young woman full of life. The anatomy of that failure extended beyond a single morning. It illuminated flaws in crew safety, in international oversight, in communication, and in societal assumptions about safety and trust. It demonstrated how easily ordinary people, passengers and families, could be rendered powerless when circumstance, error, and human intent collided. Yet amid these revelations, hope remained. Each witness report, each piece of circumstantial evidence, each small observation sustained the possibility that Amy was still alive somewhere. It drove the Bradleys to continue searching, to keep asking questions, to challenge assumptions. They never relented. Their perseverance ensured that this case did not fade quietly into the archives of unsolved mysteries. And so, the story of Amy Lynn Bradley, in all its complexity and heartbreak, teaches a lesson both tragic and vital: the cost of errors, the fragility of systems, and the need for vigilance. It reminds us that behind every missing person is a family, a community, a network of human connections that cannot and should not be ignored. If you've followed this chapter closely, you've borne witness not only to a vanishing but to a web of systemic failure that allowed it to happen. Supporting this channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing ensures these stories are remembered, honored, and pursued with the care they deserve. By staying engaged, you are helping keep Amy's story alive, helping shine light on mysteries that demand our attention, and joining a community committed to truth and remembrance. The disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley did not end with the ship leaving Curaçao. It echoed far beyond the Caribbean, reaching into the quiet streets of Petersburg, Virginia, into the hearts of a family suddenly hollowed by absence, and into the lives of anyone who dared to imagine a young woman vanished in a world meant to keep her safe. Ron and Iva returned home carrying the weight of grief that had no precedent. Amy's bedroom remained untouched. Trophies, posters, basketball shoes, letters, and photographs, silent reminders of a life abruptly paused. Her absence was palpable, a living emptiness in every corner of the house. Brad, her brother, grappled with guilt, replaying the night's last conversation over and over, wondering if there had been something he could have done differently. The community responded immediately. Friends and neighbors rallied. Vigils were held. Candles flickered in the night as hundreds gathered to remember a girl they barely knew but who had become, through circumstance, their own. Flyers were posted in towns across Virginia and the Caribbean. Local churches held prayer services, and the media picked up the story, broadcasting it to millions through shows like Unsolved Mysteries and America's Most Wanted. Each segment, each article, carried a single, chilling question. Where had Amy gone? And why had the ocean, the ship, the crew, all the mechanisms meant to safeguard her, failed so completely? The Bradleys refused to let the story fade. They pushed for answers, engaging with authorities, journalists, and eventually private investigators. The cruise industry, spurred by the incident and others like it, began to reconsider policies. Rails were reinforced, security cameras installed in critical areas, reporting procedures standardized. Congressional hearings addressed man-overboard protocols and the need for faster alerts. Slowly, incrementally, change began, but for the family the clock had already started its cruel, unrelenting tick. Witnesses continued to emerge over the years, carrying pieces of information that flickered like distant stars. David Carmichael's 1998 beach sighting, Frank Hefner's brothel encounter in 1999, the tourist in Barbados in 2005. Each account reinforced the terrifying possibility that Amy had been taken from the ship, transported, and hidden in a world few could see. Photos of a woman named Jazz, analyzed meticulously, showed tattoos identical to Amy's. Investigators traced digital footprints to Caribbean IP addresses. Every thread suggested a trajectory away from accident, toward deliberate human intervention. The emotional toll on the Bradleys was immense. Ron and Iva abandoned careers, devoting their lives to searching, publicizing the case, and supporting other families caught in similar limbo. Brad grew into adulthood with the shadow of Amy's disappearance shaping his every move, each holiday a reminder of absence, each family celebration a ghost of what had been. Friends who tried to offer comfort found their words insufficient. Grief was relentless, physical, a pressure on lungs and shoulders. As years passed, memorials grew. Scholarships were established in Amy's name. Awareness campaigns about tattoos as identifying marks gained traction, highlighting how even small details could be crucial in missing person cases. The family traveled the Caribbean, distributing flyers, chasing tips, and interviewing witnesses. Each lead, whether promising or dead-ended, became part of a living mosaic of hope and despair. Then in 2025, a Netflix documentary reignited the case. The series, Amy Bradley is Missing, brought her story to a global audience, sparking a flood of tips and renewed investigation. Witnesses who had remained silent for decades came forward. One bar server corroborated whispers of a kidnapping, explaining what crew had known all along. Potential sightings of Amy or her offspring were reported, from Barbados to Curaçao, each claim cautiously investigated by private detectives and law enforcement. The story that had begun with a simple cruise celebration was now a decades-long pursuit of truth. Beyond procedural and investigative developments, the case left a deeper mark. It transformed public perception of cruise safety. Passengers became more cautious, authorities more vigilant, and the world slightly more aware that even in spaces designed for joy and leisure, danger can lurk unseen. Human trafficking networks, once hidden in plain sight, faced increased scrutiny, particularly in tourist-heavy ports. Amy's disappearance became emblematic of the risks inherent in transient, international environments where oversight was often minimal and opportunity abundant. The emotional resonance of this story endures. Ron and Iva aged visibly under the strain of unrelenting search. Brad carried a lifetime of questions with no full answers. Families of other missing passengers, George Smith, Rebecca Coriam and countless unnamed others, found echoes of their experiences in the Bradleys' plight. And yet, through all the sorrow and the frustration, hope persisted. Every photograph analyzed, every witness interviewed, every lead investigated was a testament to belief that Amy may yet be found, that the world might still be made whole for those who search tirelessly. The echoes in the sky are not just metaphorical. They are reminders of voices calling across time and space, of the light of human persistence shining in darkness. They are the whispers of family, friends, and strangers bound together by the desire to see justice, closure, and perhaps even reunion. Amy Bradley's story reminds the world that vigilance matters, that every small oversight can have tragic consequences, and that hope, once kindled, can endure decades, carrying a family forward when certainty has long departed. If you have followed Amy's journey to this point, your attention and empathy are part of the search. By supporting this channel through likes, subscriptions, and shares, you help ensure these stories reach others who will listen, remember, and honor those lost. Your care is more than a gesture. It's a light in the darkness, a way to keep the voices of missing persons alive, and a way to stand with families who refuse to forget. 27 years have passed since the Caribbean waters swallowed Amy Bradley from the decks of the Rhapsody of the Seas, yet her story has never dimmed. The days of despair transformed into decades of relentless advocacy, a family refusing to accept the void as final, and a quiet but unwavering reminder that every missing person is more than a headline. They are a life, a story, a ripple in the world that should never be ignored. The Bradleys' lives were forever altered. Ron and Iva abandoned careers, devoting themselves entirely to the search for their daughter, to amplifying awareness of her disappearance, and to supporting others caught in similar limbo. Brad, her brother, grew up carrying the weight of absence, his life shadowed by what was lost but also inspired by the resilience of hope. Each anniversary, each photograph, each lead that flickered briefly across the horizon, became a reminder of both love and perseverance. Their grief was raw, enduring, but it became a fuel that propelled a mission larger than personal sorrow. A mission to illuminate vulnerability, to demand accountability, and to honor lives that vanish from view. Amy's story became emblematic of a broader struggle. Cruise ships, once symbols of leisure and carefree joy, began instituting changes. Improved man-overboard technology, reinforced rails, surveillance in critical areas, faster reporting of missing persons. International agreements were strengthened, ensuring that no family should have to face the bureaucratic limbo that had plagued the Bradleys. Awareness of human trafficking in tourist hubs rose. Hotlines and support networks expanded, informed by the painful lessons learned from her disappearance. Her story did not merely highlight tragedy, it sparked reform, saving lives in ways her family could not have foreseen. Yet the most profound legacy is not policy or procedure. It is human connection. Friends, strangers, investigators, journalists, all became threads in the tapestry of hope woven around Amy Bradley. Families of other missing persons, George Smith, Rebecca Coriam, countless others, found solidarity in shared grief. Advocacy groups grew, parents spoke out, and communities mobilized. The world slowly acknowledged a truth the Bradleys understood instinctively. No life lost to disappearance should be forgotten, no family should endure in silence. In 2025, the Netflix documentary Amy Bradley is Missing rekindled the world's gaze. Hundreds of tips poured in, new sightings, aged photographs, suspicious activity in Caribbean ports. Investigators revisited leads long thought cold. Private detectives, international authorities, and digital analysts collaborated in ways unimaginable in 1998. One lead suggested possible offspring, another tracked online activity from Barbados, while a witness corroborated decades-old suspicions of abduction. The search continues. It is methodical, painstaking, respectful, and it is fueled by the enduring belief that Amy may yet be found. The memorials endure, subtle but persistent. Scholarships in her name, awareness campaigns for tattoos and personal identification, and family websites reminding the world that she is missing, not forgotten. The Bradleys have maintained dignity amid the storm of media attention, speculation, and procedural frustrations. Their work is not sensational, it is an act of love. Each candle lit, each flyer posted, each lead pursued is a testament to a family that refuses to surrender to the silence of the sea. Amy's story is also a mirror reflecting the resilience of all families of victims. Each parent who loses a child, each sibling left behind, each friend who waits for a phone call that never comes, they are bound together in quiet courage. Their persistence, their refusal to forget, ensures that victims' voices remain alive, that their stories continue to challenge indifference, and that hope continues to pulse where despair might otherwise claim dominion. The legacy is both sobering and inspiring. Change, progress, and advocacy have grown from grief. Yet it is tempered by reality. Disappearances continue, systems continue to falter, and human cruelty still lurks in shadows. Amy's story and the lives it touches reminds us that vigilance, care, and compassion are essential. That the smallest action, reporting a sighting, questioning an irregularity, caring for a family's anguish, can ripple across time and space. Even now, images of Amy aged through decades appear in efforts to imagine what she may look like at 51, each digital recreation a haunting reminder of life interrupted. The family maintains the $25,000 FBI reward and the global outreach that has kept the case alive for nearly 3 decades. Private investigators comb islands, authorities trace leads, and the world watches, waits, and remembers. Above all, Amy's story is a call to honor the lost and those searching. It is a tribute to families who refuse to be silenced, to communities who rise in vigil, and to the humanity that endures even when answers are scarce. She symbolizes both vulnerability and resilience, a young woman taken from the ordinary world, and a family who transformed grief into purpose, darkness into light, despair into advocacy. And perhaps, under the Caribbean sun or the night sky, somewhere in the islands she once visited, a woman with faded tattoos waits to be found. Her story is not closed. Her legacy continues in reform, in hope, and in every voice that refuses to forget. Amy Lynn Bradley remains missing, but she is not gone from memory, from justice, or from the hearts of those who fight for every missing person's return. If you have journeyed with us through Amy's story, your care is part of that ongoing legacy. By liking, subscribing, and sharing, you help ensure these voices are heard, these stories are honored, and these families are supported. Your attention carries hope. Your remembrance carries dignity. Together, we keep the memory of victims alive, and together, we affirm that no one should vanish without a trace, without witness, without fight.